We're talking about law of sines and cosines with word problems. So here we're going to look at number 1 from the review that I've posted up again. It says Billy walks due east for 3 miles. Then he heads 30-degree north of east for another X miles. He then turns and heads 19 degrees south of west back to where he started. What is the value of X to the nearest tenth? You must draw a triangle. You will not get credit and will not be able to do it if you don't. So we have here that Billy's walking due east. If you do not know the directions, you should, because it is going to be something you see a lot on these word problems. So here's it's north, south, east, west. When you spell it, we is how you spell left to right, so that'll help a little. So it says Billy is walking east 3 miles. So we're going to say he's going east 3 miles. Then it said there is a 30-degree turn north. Well, north is up and about 30 degrees, so we'll put it right here. But it doesn't tell us how far he walked. Then it said he turned around and goes back south at a 19-degree angle from where he started. It wants to know the value of X. Well, you ask yourself, just like every problem, do we have a right angle? No. Do we have an angle on the side across? Yes. 19 and 3. So you would set this problem up at sine of 19 over 3 equals, well, here we don't need this side over here, we need this side. So we know that X is going to go on bottom because that's the side, but in order to find out what angle, you would add 19 plus 30 because that's the two angles we have, and you would take that answer and you would say 180 because every triangle equals 180. That gives us 131 being the angle, so we would come over here and say sine of 131. You're going to do cross product, meaning you're going to multiply X times sine 19. Over here, 3 times sine 31. Now 3 times sine 31, if you are not in degree mode, will not work. Please do not put it in degree mode. So we have 2.264. We need X by itself, meaning we're going to divide by sine of 19, not just 19, sine of 19. And we get that the distance that he drove, or he walked, was 6.954 miles. Now, second problem says, in problem 1, what is the total distance that he walked to the nearest tenth of a mile? Well, he walked this full triangle. Now, we have the first one because he walked 3 miles, and we have this one because we just solved for it. Now we need to solve for the other missing side. In order to find out how far he walked, we must find all sides of the triangle. So we already have this sine 19 over 3 is our reference ratio, and you need to keep using the same one. That's sine of 30 because 30 is the angle across from where we're solving. We would multiply. We get X times sine 19, 3 times sine 30. Now 3 times sine 30 is 1.5. You can divide by that sine 19 because you need X by itself. When you do, you get that X equals 4.607. So it wants to know the total distance. Well, he walked 3 miles at first. Then he walked 6.954 miles. Then he worked 4.607. We walked 14. So that means the nearest tenth of a mile would be 14.6 miles that he walked during his trip. Because 5, 6 is bigger, it rounds up. Okay, here's problem 3. Tony is landscaping his yard. He has sectioned off the area of the yard that is supposed to be the garden into the shape of a triangle. The sides of the garden are 17 feet, 23 feet, and 28 feet. Tony is trying to finish the section, but he cannot get the angle between the 23-foot side and the 28-foot side correct. What degree should separate those two sides? So at this point, all we know is that we have a triangle, and it has a 17-foot side, a 23-foot side, and a 28-foot side, and it wants to know the angle that is going to separate the 23-foot side from the 28-foot side. So we ask ourselves, is it a right triangle? No, did not mention that. Do we have an angle on the side across? No, we don't have an angle at all. So we'll have to use law of cosine. Law of cosine tells us that it's going to be 17 squared equals 23 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 23 times 28 cosine of x, because we do not know that angle. Now remember, solving for an angle does give us an extra step that most of them don't, but the first step is still the same. You must do whatever math you can. We can square 17. That gives us 279. You can also square 23 and add it to 28. When you do, you get 1313. You can also multiply 2 times 23 times 28, which is 1288 cosine x. Okay, we did the math that we could. Next step says you're going to subtract that first number, meaning it will be subtracted on both sides. That gets us 289 minus 1313. That is negative 1024 equals negative 288 cosine x. Next step in our process is we have to divide. So you're going to divide by what right now is being multiplied by that cosine, which is negative 1288. When you get that cosine of x equals 0.795. Now that 0.795, anytime you're missing an angle, it does not matter the situation, you must do the inverse to solve. So you're going to inverse cosine of whatever is on that other side. Now I'm going to show you in the calculator. It's just going to be best if you push second cosine and then put the whole decimal. Do not worry about rounding. The calculator is smart enough to do it for you. That tells you that that angle is 37.3 degrees. With angles, we round to the nearest degree, so that is going to be 37 degrees. Okay, for problem 4, Billy Joe goes to country cross skiing in the path described in the triangle below. If Billy Joe completed the trip in 1 hour and 20 minutes, what was his average speed? All angles in degree, round to the nearest kilometer per hour. To solve this, to do speed, it is distance divided by time. You find the distance by adding up the entire path that he went and dividing it by the amount of hours or minutes that it took to do. Right now, you cannot add up all 3 sides because you're missing one. So I want you to try to solve this one yourself. Solve for the missing side and then find the speed. Okay, you should have used law of cosines. First off, you should have added up the 121 and 32, subtract that from 180 to find the missing side was 27, or missing angle was 27. You're solving for the missing side of law of cosine, so we have x squared and filled out the rest of the equation. You typed it in, you get that the missing side is 2.728 kilometers. Now you need to find the speed. Added up all sides of the triangle, he went 2.728 kilometers, 6 kilometers, and 5.2 kilometers for a total of 13.928 kilometers. It took him an hour and 20 minutes. Now, an hour and 20 minutes is not in hours. It is in hours and minutes. So if there's 60 minutes in an hour, 20 minutes is a third of that. So you're going to divide it by the 1 1/3 hours it took to get done. So you have that 13.928 divided by the 1 1/3. When you get that, you get a total of 10.446 kilometers per hour. That's the speed.